And I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is Rules and Open Government Committee meeting for October 30th, 2013. Unless there are changes to the agenda order, we'll just start at the beginning, which would be the City Council November 5th council meeting agenda. Anything on page 1? Page 2 or 3, I have a question on the adjournment. We used to have just a description of what it was about. Now we're getting a paragraph or two, and I'm concerned about suddenly we're going to be doing pages of material. It's going to be like a congressional record. So I don't know what the limits are on how much we put in.
I can write a policy.
I don't know if we need a policy. It just,
you know, like a procedure standard.
The Browning just requires a name.
Yeah.
So it's really up to the committee.
I mean, if you could do one sentence, basically. The first sentence would be enough, and then all the other details are going to come in from a council member, I presume.
Or in this particular case, from the administration. So we can cut it back simply to identify the individual.
Otherwise, council members are going to start wanting to put their remarks into the official document.
You have so much faith in us. You know we'll
And
do
and then the remarks will get longer and longer and longer, and
Hey, but there's no ceremonial. So.
no ceremonials yet. Okay, anything else on page 2 or 3? Page 4 or 5. Vacation of Hoppy Street just caught my eye here. Council District 4. I think I started working on that when I was a council member.
We wanted to get it done before you left.
That's good. If I got it right, it's we first thought we could sell it. Nobody wanted to buy it. And we thought, well, we could give it away. Nobody wanted it. So apparently somebody finally wants it.
We can vacate it. That's
Yeah. Anything else on page 5? Page 6, 7. So we have our bond-funded softball facility update to be heard in the evening, first in the evening. We have ceremonials for the evening, none yet. Anything else on page 7 or page 8, which is open forum only. Page 9, anything on the public hearing on consent calendar? 10 or 11, the other real property matters. Page 12, which is the last page. Any request for additions or changes? I have nothing in writing. Motion is to approve the agenda. The recommendations is noted. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed. That's approved. November 12th, no meeting due to the, well, no regular council meeting due to the holiday, but we do have the probability of a study session on the 12th regarding urban villages, right? The council has already set that date.
Yes.
So we'll get to that agenda at some point to review it. Legislative update, we have nothing on state and federal meeting schedules, nothing at this point. Public record, anything public record committee would like to discuss?
Move to note file.
Mayor.
Motion is note and file. I have a request to speak. Mr. Well, I missed your request to speak on the November 5th agenda. You want to speak on that?
Thank you,
as long
sir.
as we're here.
I guess we're fatigued from all your trips on pension reform. Item 2.7, I wish you would reconsider taking money out of our valiant police and firefighters' pay to cover their retirement costs when they're out defending all of us while they're in military service. I think this is rather picayune of the city to do this. Also, I was going to mention about that item 2.10, the vacation portion of Hoppe Street. Are you just giving this land away, or who's getting this land? And if possible, I'd like to have this item deferred so I could go out and look at it, because if you're giving away a piece of San Jose, I would like it. And so I think the way this is written, nobody knows who's getting the land. All you are is vacating it. And I think it needs to be clearer about that. And if you're giving it away, at least defer it so I can go out there and see if I want it. And I think that'd be fair. Thank you.
We'll give you time to hop on over there. This isn't until Tuesday. Mr. Mayor, I forgot. We have something I thought was going to be on an ad sheet for the next council meeting, and that is the urgency ordinance memorandum that was distributed related to the control of the invasive wild pigs in District 10.
That was a request to add it to the
this fifth agenda.
fifth agenda. One question about that, I can remember some times in the past when we had urgency ordinances where it takes 2/3 vote, specifically dealing with animals. It was the coyote thing, I think, where we
Yes.
had enough votes to pass the ordinance, but not enough to pass an urgency ordinance, so we ended up doing nothing. And so the question, I think, for the attorney is, could we move an urgency ordinance and a regular ordinance at the same time, in the same fashion?
Yes. We've done that in the past, and that would be the recommended course, so that in the event the council doesn't make the findings or have the votes to do the urgency ordinance, you can always do a regular ordinance if you can get the 6 votes.
And why do we need to do an ordinance at all?
Well, we have a situation where we have these feral pigs that are destroying property and threatening the safety of our residents in certain neighborhoods in the Almaden area. And unfortunately, the preferred method of the Fish and Game folks is to discharge a firearm to dispatch the animals, but our ordinance does not allow the discharge of a weapon within the city limits, except for a couple of very specific exceptions. This would allow us to get the situation under control and coordinate what the state needs and what we would like to do with people who are in the profession of doing this.
Mr. Mayor, this is not unlike the airport situation where we had to give we had to adopt an ordinance to allow people to go out there and shoot birds for flight safety. It required an ordinance because we have very tight restrictions as to who can discharge a firearm in the city limits.
And really, I don't think we want to loosen those restrictions other than very specific things, and that's why we believe that we need to have a very tightly crafted exception to the ordinance, and it needs to be done quickly because we're having an inordinate amount of property damaged, and the threat to the safety, especially of children's, is significant.
Are we drafting an ordinance, or are we just creating another exception to the existing ordinance?
Well, it's an ordinance, but it's going to be creating another exception. So it's a very short ordinance, like a one-liner.
I was trying to figure out how much work there is here. It seems to me that we already have ordinance, and we've already made some exceptions. So
This ordinance would be very brief.
The ordinance will be easier than actually catching the pigs, I promise. So with
Are
that,
they looking for volunteers to catch the pigs? I hope not. Hopefully,
Well,
there's professionals out there that will know how to do this.
I've offered my services from farm to table if we need it. So I'd like to make a motion, if it's okay, to add this to the 5th agenda with a recommendation from the Rules Committee to bring a standard ordinance in addition to the urgency ordinance.
Second.
I'd like to change the direction just so it's clear. We're adding an exception to an existing ordinance, so we don't get into this discussion of whether or not this is a new ordinance and has to go to the ordinance priority setting session, which will be quite some time before we get there, that this is,
I think that's what I meant to say.
okay. So that the agenda language is clear that we're modifying an existing ordinance. I think I had no request to speak on that one, so anything else, the staff and so city attorney can handle this in a short period of time.
And if we have any difficulty, we'll let you know as soon as possible.
Okay.
But
And clearly will involve both the police department as well as our animal services staff in preparation for Tuesday.
And we already know what the state needs. They've told us what they need, so we don't have to coordinate too much. All right, on the motion to add this, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed. Okay.
Thank you.
Now I think we're done with November 5th. Now we'll take up the public record. I have a couple of requests to speak on it. Vice Mayor, did you want to comment on one of these items?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I wanted to comment on the petition that was submitted by residents of Dairy Hill. And the petition is entitled Save the Dairy Hill from Cemetery Expansion. Just so the committee knows, my office has been working with the residents at Dairy Hill, and we've actually met with them. And this is a petition drive that actually was submitted to encourage the city attorney's office as well as our staff to look into the possibility of whether or not the city actually owned this piece of land. It's a 13-acre piece of land at Oak Hill Cemetery, and we haven't made that determination, not to my understanding. And so I'm hoping that with this petition that we can ask the city attorneys to hopefully expedite the process so that the residents know whether or not the city has a right to sell the land to Oak Hill Cemetery for the expansion. And some of the questions that I would like the city attorney's office to come back with are, what are the legal land use and real estate issues that needs to be resolved? Is this habitat land? Can the city actually make a surplus property determination and sell the property for private use? What are the zoning and grading issues? And can proponents actually replace mitigations elsewhere? So these are some of the questions that would help us trying to find some resolutions to this issue. And I'm hoping that the city attorney can bring this back to the Rules Committee as soon as you can.
Okay, and we are working on that. I'll note that we've had communications with the attorneys for some proposed developers asking similar questions, but we are working with economic development, planning, and real estate, and we hopefully will have those documents and the answers shortly.
Okay, thank you.
And I think there's an important sequence to doing the work that maybe is helpful, because when I see some of these questions, it makes some of the other questions moot. Because if this is for restricted use for restricted purpose and we can't consider doing something else, then all of the other questions kind of, you don't have to answer them.
That appears to be the intent. It was part of environmental mitigation, but we are getting all the documentation in order.
Okay, so that's a motion to refer that to staff, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, Scott Guthridge. Let me get you to pick that microphone up just a little bit.
Yeah.
Squeeze the handle and it'll slide up. That's better.
Okay. Try to time this, so I hope I still have time. All right. I'm here to talk briefly about the subject of the cemetery expansion. So when the neighborhood was developed, the city required the developer to set aside the land as a development mitigation. From the beginning, there was an expectation that the hillside would remain wild sloping grassland and habitat for western burrowing owl and other species. It's also the site of an oak reforestation project. The developer planted 100 oak trees, and volunteers from our neighborhood have worked hard to remove weeds around those trees and protect them. I'll quote quickly from the Communications Hill specific development plan. It says, "The sloping grasslands of Communications Hill are an established landmark, and large portions should be conserved. These grassy slopes are a major open space component of the plan, which encompasses the hill and surrounds the neighborhood. This large expanse of preserved or restored hillside gives definition and boundedness to the neighborhood." In April, a group of us met with the director of planning, and he said that as he remembered, the hillside was originally intended to be made part of the common area of the homeowners association. But later, when the Community Facilities District was formed, it was transferred to the city of San Jose to fall under the stewardship of the CFD. The owners of the cemetery argue that that cemetery land is equivalent open space and that it serves a public need. But transforming the hillside into cemetery space would require heavy terracing, building of roads, and replacing wild grasses with irrigated lawns. This transformation would not serve the intended purpose of the land. The cemetery already owns the flat top portion of the hill. The wooden fence in the photo that I think that you are passing around shows the existing property line, and it's also the point that the grade of the slope changes abruptly. It's hard to imagine how any expansion of that line could be done without it becoming extremely visible from both our neighborhoods, California 87 and Kertner Avenue. Is that the
I think your time is up.
All right. Thank you.
Also, Mr. Wall, want to speak? On the
There are two items on today's public record. The previous speaker was quite eloquent in his presentation. It raises the issue of cadaver creep and inclusionary housing for dead people. What are you people going to do? I mean, in Germany, for example, you're entitled to be buried for up to, I think, 70 years, and then you're summarily dug up and disposed of, and somebody else takes your spot. Now, I'm not suggesting that happen, but 3 mayoral candidates sit before me, and you're all in favor of high-density living, so does that apply to dead people? The other issue that was on today's agenda deals with this pension reform junkets that His Honor has been going on, missing his rules meetings. And, you know, I'm glad to see Councilmember Constant is back in our midst, and I'm glad to see the mayor is back in our midst. But this pension reform business, I think other cities and jurisdictions should study their own way to go about unilaterally breaking contracts with their employees without help from the city of San Jose. Thank you.
That concludes the public testimony on the public record. We have a motion to refer one item to staff and note and file the other, I think. Is that the motion?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the motion. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed. That's approved. Boards, commissions, and committee matters. We have nothing. We have request to approve item G2, approval of Westfield Oak Ridge Winter Walk.
Motion to approve.
A motion to approve that as a city-sponsored event. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed. That's approved. We have a couple of recommendations to add to a council meeting. Item G3, updated campaign contribution limits and voluntary expenditure limits for the November 5th council meeting. And then we have one for the, let's take up G3 first. This is November 5th council meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is to approve the addition of that to the November 5th meeting. On that motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Whoops. G3. Okay, Mr. Wall.
Sir, I'm kind of concerned why the city even bothers going down this path with reference to the fact that outside contributions squarely are almost infinite when you consider the Citizens United case. And what means voluntary contributions? I mean, for example, there's one candidate for mayor who checked the box that they're not going to obey the voluntary thing. If the person wins the Powerball, they could step in with $40 or $50 million for a campaign, or greater. So, whereas this may, make you feel good about, being fair in politics, it really has nothing to do with anything, because the money can come by through a variety of different doors. Plus, in addition, the chilling of free speech with this ballot statement estimate, that definitely limits the playing field for anybody that runs for office. And this is a very definitive chilling of free speech that affects the democratic process as a whole. So I really don't see anything good out of this at all. I should think that there should be some mechanism to where ballot statements should be free of charge to encourage more people into public service. Thank you.
I just promise if I win the Powerball, I won't spend it all on an election, okay? We can have a voluntary expenditure limit on Powerball winnings.
Right, so we have a motion to approve this for the November 5th council meeting. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed? That's approved. G4, proposed revisions to municipal code related to office holder candidate legal defense fund.
So I'll make a motion to approve with the hope I never need one.
Second.
We have a motion to approve. Mr. Wall, you want to speak on this one?
Now we see government is becoming the candidates, the office holders, have an enormous duty one of all, keep track of all the money you do raise. Now you have another layer of complex accounting to keep you from going into the fires of perdition. Now, I think this is a good idea. I think that this is, there's a certain Measure B-esque quality associated with this document, but I'm concerned how you could raise money to defend yourself with the language contained herein. Do you have to use your office holder account to raise money to tell people that you're in trouble to donate to your legal defense fund? Because as it's written, or at least my interpretation, you can't use that money in your legal defense fund to raise money. And so therein lies, you know, the problem I have with this is it's unclear to me that if you're in trouble, and let's hope none of you will be in trouble, but let's say you are, how are you going to notify people that you're in trouble that they can contribute money to get you out of trouble? So I think that this needs to be reviewed a little bit to clarify how you can educate people that you're in a world of hurt and you need their money to get you a good attorney to get you out of the mess that you're in. Thank you.
That concludes public testimony. We have a motion to add this to 19th. On that motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Not opposed? That's approved. Taking us, I believe, to open forum. Is that correct? Open forum. Mr. Wall?
I know that you've been becoming more environmentally concerned these days, and I wanted to tell you a couple things. On Frontage Road, close by the police department, it looks like urban agriculture has finally taken off. And if you've had anything to do with that, I'd like to thank you for that, but I need to make more inquiries as to who gets the ability to do that, and I would imagine it's a corporate enterprise. Other thing, Mr. Mayor, there's on North 5th Street, right in front of City Hall, there's a series of parking spots for zip cars. And there's signage there that basically says if you park here, you're going to get a $55 fine at any time. And I was asking the police, what if a disabled person wants to park there? Does the zip car trump the disabled person and they could be fined? Because these are right next to City Hall. And there are really, I mean, disabled people can park anywhere where there's a metered sign or a meter, and there's meters there, but they're for the zip cars. Now, I don't know if this is just an oversight or not, but it is of concern. Also, Mr. Mayor, a peregrine falcon, Friday, in front of my house, caught a sparrow as I sat on the front porch. That goes to show you the state of the environment's improving. Also, in my far back property, I stumbled on an immature gopher snake, which I haven't seen for over 20-something years at that property. So that also is an indicator. Outside of that, thank you.
Erlen Resendez. None. Renee Chavez.
Mr. Mayor, how are you? I had a pleasure to meet you at my restaurant on Study Road, I would say, a month and a half ago. And I explained to you that I've been trying to open another bakery over here on 1661 Allen Brook. So they asked me to submit floor plans into that property because they can't find them nowhere. So I went ahead and I drew floor plans for that property, which I spent a lot of money on it. So when I tried to submit into planning department, they send me back into scratch where they want me to do electrical, mechanical, and plumbing plans for that building. I was wondering if there's any way that I can get some help from the city so I can get this place going.
Okay, well, we don't get into discussions during open forum. We can refer this matter to Ed Chicata, our assistant city manager, to respond to you.
Okay.
Okay. Jim Piazzo? So you can talk to Mr. Chicata after the meeting.
I would like to talk about the Zanker Material Processing Facility, which is currently discharging lead and other contaminants into the stormwater and groundwater. I further assert that the Zanker Material Processing Facility located in 675 Los Australias Road, I seek reconsideration of the City Council's decision and related to CEQA Resolution Number 76672, adopted June 11, 2013, and related ordinance number 29268, adopted June 18, 2013, which approved the rezoning of the Zanker Processing Facility project. I have petitioned for reconsideration and challenged the city's failure to require a subsequent EIR in lieu of an abandonment to previous certified EIR as required by CEQA guidelines, sections 15162 and 15164 CEQA. I have provided and said new information to the City of San Jose by way of written and verbal communication on multiple occasions, and affirms that said new information serves as substantial importance, which was not known, could have not been known at the time previous EIR was certified, and therefore requires a complete EIR. Thank you.
That concludes the open forum, concludes our meeting. We're adjourned.
Right.